Thanks y'all for being here. We're amped up already, notwithstanding 8:04. So I want to say thank you all for showing up to send a strong message to everybody who would try to send us back to a time where California built prisons instead of colleges, unleashed cops and locked up youth, defunded healthcare services and criminalized mental illness, ignored the needs of survivors, all while claiming that they were acting in their best interests. Today, we demonstrate that community advocates don't have to get ready because we stay ready. In 2024, we are ready. We are ready to fight for prevention. We're ready to fight for interventions. We are ready to fight for full employment and a fair shot at reentry, for quality health care, adequate housing, critical victim services. We won't go back to accepting the false choice between safety and justice for our families and our communities. My name is Carmen Nicole Cox. I'm Director of Government Affairs for ACLU California Action, and I am honored to welcome you all to the launch of #Smart Solutions. Smart Solutions is a new intersectional campaign fueled by impacted individuals and organizations that are dedicated to survivors, to children, to people experiencing homelessness, crisis, and systemic oppression. This campaign is about community-centered solutions to safety, accountability, and justice. And now check this is important. When we talk about accountability, we mean making sure people repair the harms they cause, that they understand and learn from their mistakes, and that they change their behavior. And we want this because this is what survivors want, and this is what reduces recidivism. This morning, we have 5 amazing community leaders joining us at the mic as we urge the state to focus our limited resources on smart solutions that prevent victimization and enhance public safety. Smart Solutions is rooted in facts, not fear-mongering. So of course, bringing to the mic, we have Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, an ACLU champion representing Los Angeles.
Yo, good morning. I said good morning. Welcome to Sacramento. As we get ready to start a new legislative year, it's important that we have this conversation early. The state is facing its first budget deficit in a great many years, the largest budget deficit we've ever had. It's not a coincidence that we're having conversations about safety at the same time we're expecting to cut the safety net by more than we have in over a decade. Safety is important to all Californians. It's certainly important in Los Angeles, where I represent. And we know what keeps communities safe. Thriving schools, food infrastructure, public health infrastructure, affordable housing. Nothing deters criminal activity stronger than keeping a roof over your head. These are the opportunities we have to invest. These are the opportunities we have to protect. This year, that's what Californians are sending us here to fight for, their livelihood. And in the absence of that, to prevent us from making the mistakes that we've made time and time again. We can't call it progress when we are literally going backwards. And while the legislature hasn't taken any steps that direction yet, that's what this press conference is all about. It's about centering smart solutions, evidence, dialogue, communities that are most impacted, and the communities that will be most impacted if we make the wrong decisions. And with that, I'd like to remind you that for every dollar we spend criminalizing poverty, it's a dollar we could have better spent ending poverty. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Bryan, for your leadership. Smart Solutions focuses on root causes of crime. So, of course, we have Assemblymember Mia Bonta, an ACLU champion representing Alameda, coming to the mic.
So proud to be here with you this morning. I'm State Assembly Member Mia Bonta, and I am honored to represent the beautiful people of Oakland, Alameda, and Emeryville. I'm honored to stand with you today to launch #SmartSolutions, because boy, do we need them now more than ever. Since I took office in 2021, my actions as a legislator have made it very clear where I stand, which is on the path to public safety, which includes making sure that we have public progress around our basic needs: health care, education, our opportunity to be able to thrive and be connected to our communities in meaningful ways, invested in, not divested in, like communities that I represent, like Oakland. In my first days in office, I had to be the 41st vote on a criminal justice solution. I came off from lunch celebrating my swearing in to having to be the 41st voice to say, no, we are not going to go backwards in terms of the way that we treat people who are incarcerated. We need to go forward. And that's why we are here today, to ensure that we have smart solutions. But let's not forget that the reality is so many of our people are hurting right now. We're feeling loss, we're feeling pain, we are not feeling safe. Mothers worry for their children that they will not be there because of gun violence. Seniors fear going into local shops, and workers deal with the stress of not knowing that their workplace is going to be safe. At the heartbeat of our economy stand our mom and pop shops and our entrepreneurs who have struggled with COVID, with the impact of rising rents, and with not being able to insure their companies. And in the middle of that, we are asking for public community safety. I have no BIP zones going up all the time right now in Oakland. We are concerned for sure. But the path to creating concern is justice. And though there's no possibility that we will have justice when we have a mindset around reactivating a mindset of law and order, a mindset of lock them up and throw away the key. And we are so on the verge right now, on the precipice of that old model of dealing with public safety and community safety. And I'm standing here with my brothers and sisters, with my favorite colleague, Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, to say that is not the way forward. We need smart solutions, whether that be ensuring that we have an opportunity to actually enforce the laws that are already on the books, whether that means making sure that we are making the crucial investments that we need, whether that means recognizing that when you lock somebody up and have a mindset around locking up and throwing away the key, the only thing that they're going to do is get dehumanized. We spent $14.6 billion on our carceral system last year. Every year, we spend money on a broken system, a system that has people come out without the resources that they need to be able to be our good neighbors, to be our community members, to come back to their mothers and fathers, whole, with jobs, with housing, with the ability to create a path forward for themselves, their generation of people that they love and support, and their children and families. Our job as legislators is not to take the most certain, the easiest path, the path of the lowest common denominator, by thinking about reforming our places where we've already made progress. Our path is not to say we need to move forward with eliminating or reforming Prop 47. Our path forward is to come up with solutions and investments that will actually make a difference. It's going to require our legislators to dig deep. We cannot rely on the tweet to legislate. We cannot rely on social media to drive how we make sure that we focus on change. And we are going to have to ask ourselves some very tough questions. Am I going to stand for progress, or am I going to stand for locking people up? Am I going to stand and support victims, or am I going to do harm to my community? Those are the questions that we must answer. We must be thoughtful. We must be deliberate. We must focus on working with our allies, on people who are impacted, our communities who are hurt the most in this moment, and not forget that we have the greatest responsibility and opportunity if we dig deep and focus on the possibility and not the harm. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership, Assemblymember Bonta. Smart solutions, y'all, means standing with survivors. So, of course, we have Lee LaChapelle of Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking. Lee.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Lee LaChapelle, and I am here representing the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking. We are one of the nation's oldest and largest comprehensive direct service providers for survivors of sex and labor trafficking. What we have learned over the past 25 years of serving survivors is that human trafficking reflects and amplifies existing kinds of oppression and exploitation and reflects our flawed approach to crime overall. The current approach to human trafficking is largely reactive. We are only responding after a crime has occurred, and we are only considering justice through the narrow lens of the criminal legal system. In this system, countless survivors are arrested and charged and harmed when they are forced to commit crimes by their trafficker, when they defend themselves, and often in the name of intervention. The criminalization of survivors creates insurmountable barriers to the access of safe housing, of public benefits, of employment, of immigration, and ultimately of healing. For these reasons, CAST works tirelessly to ensure that legislators adopt a human rights and a public health approach to human trafficking legislation that reduces the criminalization of survivors and holistically addresses the root causes of vulnerability. But today we face a significant crisis. Powerful forces are pushing for increased criminalization, while critical services for survivors are on the chopping block. Both of these will have devastating consequences for survivors in California. The Federal Victims of Crime Act, VOCA, is the largest funding source for victim services throughout the country. These funds support nearly 400 organizations responding to the needs of child abuse, elder abuse, human trafficking, domestic violence, sexual assault, and more across California. They provide counseling, crisis response, housing, legal services, and a range of other responses that are crafted to address trauma and support healing. VOCA funds at the federal level have diminished significantly over the years, and it's highly unlikely we will see the federal government replenish that fund anytime soon. It is a dire situation, and survivors are running out of time. If California doesn't act, organizations across the state will be forced to reduce critical programming, increase wait times, lay off staff, or even close their centers entirely. We will see thousands of survivors unable to access critical support. That is why CAST and the VOCA Advocacy Alliance, with over 150 supporting organizations, are asking the state to do the bare minimum, which is to allocate $200 million in ongoing funding to keep current victim services afloat in California. But as we have sounded this alarm about the diminishing VOCA funds, we have been told time and time again, it's not a good budget year. We do understand that the state faces a difficult budget year, but our ask represents just 1.4% of what was allocated to the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations in 2023. 1.4% of the $14 billion the state deemed absolutely necessary to be spent from the general fund on incarceration. 1.4% that we hope the state deems necessary to spend on services, because budgets should not be balanced on the backs of survivors of crime. And so today we are asking the state to invest in real, just solutions like this one to protect the most vulnerable members of our communities. We are asking the state of California to stop just saying that it cares about survivors and start truly investing in the support that survivors actually need. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Lee. Smart Solutions advances evidence-based policies to give Californians a safe place to live, work, and play. So, of course, we are joined by Andrea Rivera of California Pan-Ethnic Health Network.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much for being here with us today. My name is Andrea Rivera, and I'm with the California Pan-Ethnic Health Network. And we're so pleased to be here today with all of our allies to really demonstrate a multicultural, multi-ethnic, intersectional movement. From housing stability, good earning jobs, and adequate healthcare access, Californians are in crisis, and they're urging state leaders to focus on addressing root causes that cause our communities to not access safety and well-being. We live in a society where your race, wealth, and zip code say a lot about your health outcomes. And while each community faces unique barriers and health inequities, we have more in common than not. All our communities of color experience racism, discrimination, and bias. We have not been invested in, and our communities are rarely seen as policy or budget priorities. COVID has ravaged our communities all throughout the state. Mental and behavioral health conditions are on the rise, and yet we see the state diverging from programs that are focused on health intervention and prevention and moving towards carceral systems of care. The generational trauma of treating health as a public safety issue is deep. Solutions must focus on community-based care that addresses underlying causes. As our state leaders come together for this new legislative session and new opportunities to advance health equity and racial justice, we must not forget the explicit pursuit of anti-racist policies and systems change so that together we can achieve smart solutions for community safety and health equity. Thank you.
Thank you for standing in solidarity, Andrea. Smart Solutions calls for removing barriers to full employment, including for justice-involved Californians. So, of course, we are joined by Amber Bauer of UFCW Western Council.
Good morning. My name is Amber Bauer. I am the Executive Director of the United Food and Commercial Workers with 180,000 workers in California, representing the food, drug, and retail industries. UFCW upholds a core set of values that reflect our commitment to the safety of our members and the communities we serve. The crumbling social safety net, mental health crisis, and an addiction epidemic have put our members on the front lines of community safety, something they never signed up for when they started working at a Safeway or a Rite Aid. And the rapidly increasing prevalence of retail theft as an issue has exacerbated a workplace safety crisis for our members who don't have the proper training. I would like to share two of the more traumatic experiences our members have faced with organized retail theft. In San Jose, a Safeway employee was shot and killed during a robbery inside the store. There was an altercation between the Safeway employee and an assailant who was in the alcohol section stealing liquor. In another incident, two men came into a Rite Aid in Eagle Rock to steal beer. As they were leaving the store were several cases of beer. The cashier approached them to ask them to pay for it, and one of the men pulled out a gun and shot the cashier in the chest. The cashier died in the arms of his co-worker while they waited for an ambulance to arrive. These are not just one-off stories. We hear them daily. But that rather than reacting after a crime happens, what we need to focus on is investing in good union jobs, worker training and education, workplace safety and healthcare. Those are the best ways to prevent crime before it happens. Workers who are members of labor unions in the United States make 18% more than their non-union counterparts. That's more than $10,000 a year. And this is even more true for women who are union members. Being part of a union decreases by 37% the likelihood of a worker living in a low-income family, and and the union provides the worker with quality health care and retirement benefits. Unions aren't just a pathway out of poverty, they help protect workers on the job, and they can advocate for policies that will deter and prevent organized retail theft. The most effective strategy that UFCW has seen to prevent retail theft is to implement higher staffing levels in the stores, to use full service cashier lanes, and to have security staff at the entrances. Companies that use self-checkout lanes and apps have a loss rate of about 4%, which is more than double the industry average. But what we see is thinly staffed stores and more self-checkout, which adds risk of organized retail theft to our members. Staffing levels we see aren't because people don't want to work in our grocery stores. We know that 2/3 of our members in Orange County want access to more hours, and they're not getting them. So what we see is societal changes that have exacerbated crime in our communities, but we must focus on data-driven solutions that work to ensure Californian safety and well-being. It's time California policymakers use smart solutions that work to prevent crime before it happens and that support survivors. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber, for standing in solidarity. Family, California is facing a budget deficit of tens of billions of dollars. Even still, we will spend hundreds of billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars next fiscal year. In fact, Governor Newsom tomorrow will release his budget. We need Newsom and legislative leaders to focus our resources on preventing the next victim, not after the fact punishment. Over the last 3 decades, California's spending on jails and prisons increased 3 times faster than spending on K through 12 schools. This failed experiment with mass incarceration taught us that we must prioritize prevention over punishment and that accountability cannot be achieved if we do not support victims. As a former prosecutor, I can attest that the criminal legal system does not center victims, not when 3 out of 4 victims still do not receive counseling or mental health supports to recover, and 90% of victims of violence still do not receive victim compensation. We want safety, we want accountability, we want justice. We won't go back to the failed approach of racialized mass incarceration of immigrants, people with disabilities, LGBTQ people, and our youth. This campaign, y'all, is urgent. We're here at 8:30 in the morning because this is urgent. So urgent that many of us are heading over right now to the Assembly and Senate Public Safety Committees, where we will advocate for #smart solutions. We ask you to join us. We will have spokespeople who are available for media interviews both before and after the hearings. I want to thank you all for showing up in solidarity. Let's go.